Oh, a Selection Sunday less than a month away. The NCAA revealed the top 15 seeds on Saturday on CBS. Gonzaga beat out COVID-paused Baylor for the #1 seed amongst the top 2 in the AP poll. Michigan given the 3rd overall seed, while Ohio State was #4. Illinois came in at #5 to round out the top 3rd of the teams. As for the #1 seeds, as they're regionally broken down, #1 Gonzaga from the West Coast Conference, then Baylor from the Big 12, Michigan from the Big 10, Ohio State joining them as well. Remember, no regions this year due to the entire tournament being played in Indiana. And for more on the top 15 and the bracketology as a whole, let's now welcome in CBS Sports senior college basketball writer Jerry Palm. Jerry, let's start with the 1 seeds. It's hard not to take Gonzaga over Baylor at this point overall, with the Bears on pause until at least the 20th of February. What do you make of the other 1 seeds, the Bears, Wolverines, and the Buckeyes?
Yeah, Baylor, the Big 12, it gives Baylor a lot of chances to pile up quality wins. They may still get a chance to pass Gonzaga before the season's over. But not yet. Michigan was a pretty obvious choice at #3. They've been dominant, and of course they had their first game back from pause on Sunday, a comeback win over Wisconsin. Ohio State, Illinois, Villanova all had a case, maybe even Alabama, for that 4th spot. I don't really have an argument with Ohio State being in that spot. It's obvious the committee really likes what the top of the Big 10 is doing this year, because they put 3 of those teams in the top 5. And then Iowa was at #13. So a really good year for the Big 10 and a really good year for the Big 12, which had 5 teams in the top 16.
As you mentioned, Baylor still with a chance when they come back off the COVID pause to get some quality wins there and possibly overtake Gonzaga as we head towards March. Jerry, who could enter 1 seed territory for you within the next 4 weeks?
Well, anybody on the 2 line, but certainly Illinois, Villanova, even though they lost over the weekend. Alabama has been really good. Alabama would probably be the favorite among that group of teams to possibly move up, because they've been dominating in the SEC so far this season. There really isn't a good challenger to them at the moment. Tennessee, Missouri, probably the next 2 best teams, but Alabama seems to be a step ahead of them, even though Alabama lost at Mizzou. But if Alabama continues to dominate the SEC, they might be able to put together the kind of resume that challenges Ohio State and Illinois in particular, because the Big 10 is going to beat each other up. And then we'll see what Villanova can do down the stretch of this season. They haven't been quite the same since they came out of their pause.
Yeah, we're now into the dog days of the season, that time when it grinds on you the most. When you add COVID on top of that, it's certainly been hard on some of these teams. So with that in mind, who do you have as your last 4 in at this point?
Well, Drake, who is Loyola, is the automatic qualifier in my bracket. So Drake, Minnesota, Indiana, and Seton Hall are the last 4 teams in this week. Drake, that win for them over Loyola was huge. They're playing without their best player, Shanquan Hemphill, who's their leading scorer, 2nd leading rebounder. They're not going to have him for the rest of the regular season. So getting that win over Loyola without him is huge, not just for their resume, but for their confidence.
Well, and that's one of those things, too. The character of a team gets tested when you have one of your best players go out, but they managed to respond in that big win last night. Okay, let's talk about the first 4 out. Who do you have as your first 4 out at this point?
Yeah, it's Boise State, North Carolina, Maryland, and Stanford, I believe. No, Wichita State. Stanford's 5th. So these teams, Boise State has got a couple of nice wins, but they're 2-4 against quadrant 1 and 2. So they need some more games, and they've got the better teams in their conference coming up on their schedule. North Carolina just can't get a win over a good team. And the ACC doesn't give them a lot of chances for that. They had a chance playing Virginia over the weekend, came up short. They'll get a few more, but if they don't beat one of the tournament quality teams in the ACC, North Carolina's probably not going to make it.
And in terms of a spot of bother here, Jerry, we call them the bubble teams. Who are the bubble teams right now? Those teams that, as we hit that part of the season where you're grinding, teams that need to come up with results over the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, I'll give you a couple of Big 10 teams. They played each other last night, Minnesota and Maryland. Maryland winning and actually sweeping the season series over Minnesota. That game was at Maryland. Minnesota, we talked about this a lot with Rutgers last year. Minnesota does not have a win away from home. They're 0-7 on the road. And if they don't find a way to win a road game in a very difficult league, I don't think they're going to make this tournament. Maryland is a 500 team, but they are 5-10 against quadrant 1 opponents. And there's teams out there and teams in this bracket that haven't played 15 total games. Maryland's 5-10 against quadrant 1 alone, all 10 of their losses there. If they could just squeeze a little bit above 500 and finish reasonably well, Maryland's got a chance to make this tournament with a record that most years would not be good enough.
Jerry, are you satisfied with what you've seen from the committee so far in terms of that 15 coming out on Saturday? Are you happy with the way that they're kind of viewing things and ranking things at this point?
Yeah, it's a difficult year to do this because you've got teams that have played a different number of games, a disparate number of games, and you can't always trust the rankings entirely because some teams haven't played very many non-conference games at all. So you're going to rely more on eye test, and we saw some of that. I think in the case of Villanova and Virginia in particular, we saw eye test come into play a little bit more than it might in a normal season.
Jerry Palm checking in with the latest from Bracketology. Thanks very much, Jerry. Good stuff as always. And of course, you can check out Jerry's columns over on CBSSports.com, our senior college basketball writer. And for more from the college basketball world, be sure to check out the Eye on College Basketball podcast. Matt Norlander, Gary Parrish breaking down the top 15 as revealed by the NCAA on the latest edition of the pod. Download and subscribe wherever you get your preferred audio.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.